Welcome to Sports Live Media on YouTube. It's your guy Sports Live with another video for today. The Alabama High School Athletic Association will be hosting the regionals for high school boys and girls basketball February 13th through the 22nd. There are 4 regionals sites in Alabama. You have the Northeast Regional, which will be at Jacksonville State University. You have the Northwest Regionals, which will be at Wallace State Community College at Hanceville. You have the Central Regionals, which will be held at the Bill Harris Arena in Birmingham. And you have the South Regional, which will be held in Montgomery. So, without further ado, let's go over the day-by-day schedule in terms of who's playing who when for each regional, and we'll start with the Northeast Regional, which is at Jacksonville State University in Jacksonville, Alabama. On February 13th at 9 o'clock in the morning, you'll have semifinal action with 7A girls, and that will be Hewitt-Trussville versus Grissom. Then at 10:30, you'll have 7A boys, Chelsea versus Grissom. And then at noon, you'll have another 7A girls semifinal, Sparkman versus Chelsea. And at 1:30 p.m., you'll have 7A boys, Hanceville versus Oak Mountain. On February 14th, you'll have, on that day, it'll be just 1A situation. At 9 o'clock in the morning will be the 1A girls semifinal, which will be Appalachian versus Spring Garden, and that's the girls, which will be immediately followed by the 1A boys semifinal, Appalachian versus Spring Garden at 10:30 in the morning. Then at noon, you'll have 1A girls semifinal, Skyline versus Winterboro. And 1:30 p.m. you'll have the boys semifinal, Skyline versus Faith Christian, and that's on February 14th. On February 15th, you'll have 5A girls semifinal, Southside versus Moody. At 10:30, you'll have the 5A boys semifinal, Gunnersville versus Sardis. At noon, you'll have the 5A girls semifinal, Scottsboro versus Springville. And at 1:30, you'll have the 5A boys semifinal, Scottsboro versus Leeds. On February 16th, you will have, at 9 o'clock in the morning, 6A girls semifinal, Oxford versus Shays Valley. At 10:30 a.m., the 6A boys semifinal, Gardendale versus Mountain Brook. At noon, you'll have the 6A girls semifinal, Huffman versus Minor. At 1:30 p.m., you'll have the 6A boys semifinal, Huffman versus Homewood. At 3 o'clock, you'll have the 2A girls semifinal, Eider versus Sandrock. At 4 p.m., you'll have the 2A boys semifinal, North Sand Mountain versus Gaston. And then at 6 p.m., you'll have the 2A girls semifinal, Pisgah versus Lynette. At 7:30 p.m., you'll have the 2A boys semifinal, Section versus Lafayette. On Saturday, February 17th, you will have the 3A girls semifinals with Sylvania versus Susan Moore. Immediately after that will be the 3A boys semifinal, which will be Plainview versus Susan Moore. At 1 o'clock, you'll have the 3A girls semifinal, which is Plainview versus Piedmont. And at 2:30 p.m., you'll have the 3A boys semifinal, Geraldine versus Piedmont. On February 19th, you'll have a 9 o'clock game with the 4A girls semifinal, which will be Cherokee County versus Handley. At 10:30 a.m., you'll have the 4A boys semifinal, which is New Hope versus Aniana. At noon, you'll have the 4A girls semifinal, which is going to be New Hope versus Anniston. At 1:30 p.m., you will have the 4A boys semifinal, which will be DAR versus Anniston. At 3 p.m. on February 19th, you'll have the 1A girls finals. And at 4:45 p.m., you'll have the 1A boys finals. On Tuesday, February 20th, 9 o'clock, you'll have the 6A girls finals. 10:45 a.m., the 6A boys finals. 12:30 p.m., the 7A girls finals. And at 2:15 p.m., the 7A boys finals. On February 21st, 9 o'clock in the morning, 5A girls finals. 10:45 a.m., 5A boys finals. 12:30 p.m., 2A girls finals. 2:15 p.m., the 2A boys finals. Thursday, February 22nd, you'll have at 9 o'clock in the morning the 4A girls finals. At 10:45 a.m. the 4A boys finals. At 12:30 p.m. you'll have the 3A girls finals, and 2:15 p.m. you'll have the 3A boys finals. For the Central Regionals, which those start on February 14th, 9 o'clock in the morning, you'll have the 7A girls semifinal, Foley versus Central in Phoenix City. At 10:30 a.m., you'll have the boys semifinal, which is Fairhope versus Central Phoenix City. At noon, you'll have the 7A girls semifinal with Auburn versus Daphne. At 1:30 p.m., you'll have the 7A boys semifinal, Auburn versus Daphne. At 3 p.m., you'll have the 1A girls semifinal, Keith versus Otagoville. At 4:30 p.m., you'll have the 1A boys semifinal, Keith versus Calhoun. At 6 p.m., you'll have the 1A girls semifinal, which is Billingsley versus Calhoun. At 7:30 p.m., you'll have the 1A boys semifinal, which is R.C. Hatch versus South Lamar. On February 15th, 9 o'clock in the morning, 6A girls semifinal, Hillcrest Tuscaloosa versus McAdory. At 10:30 a.m., 6A boys semifinal, Paul Bryant versus McAdory. At noon, you'll have the 6A girls semifinal, Pelham versus Chilton County. At 1:30 p.m., you'll have the 6A boys semifinal, Helena versus Benjamin Russell. At 3 p.m., you'll have the 2A girls semifinal with Locust Fork versus Cornerstone. At 4:30 p.m., you'll have the 2A boys semifinal, Locust Fork versus Francis Marion. At 6 p.m., you'll have the 2A girls semifinal, Cold Springs versus Vincent. At 7:30 p.m., you'll have the 2A boys semifinal, BB Comer versus Altamont. On February 16th, continuing with the Central Regionals, you'll have at 9 o'clock in the morning for the 5A girls semifinal, Marbury versus Selma. At 10:30 a.m., the 5A boys semifinal, which will be Sylacauga versus Valley. At noon, you'll have the 5A girls semifinal, which will be Central of Clay County versus Brubaker Tech. At 1:30 p.m., you'll have the 5A boys semifinal, which will be Central of Clay County versus Demopolis. At 3 p.m., you'll have the 3A girls semifinal, which will be Sumter Central versus St. James. At 4:30 p.m., you'll have the 3A boys semifinal, Sumter Central versus Montgomery Academy. At 6 p.m., you'll have the 3A girls semifinal, Randolph County versus Trinity Presbyterian. And at 7:30 p.m., you'll have the 3A boys semifinal, which is Southside in Selma versus Trinity Presbyterian. On February 19th, at 9 o'clock in the morning, you will have the 4A girls semifinal, Dora versus Prattville Christian Academy. At 10:30 a.m., the 4A boys semifinal, which is Bibb County versus American Christian Academy. At noon, you'll have the 4A girls semifinal, which is Bibb County versus Hale County. And at 1:30 p.m., you will have the 4A boys semifinal, which will be Fultondale versus Hale County. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll have the 1A girls finals. 4:45 p.m., the 1A boys finals. On February 20th, at 9 o'clock in the morning, you'll have the 6A girls finals. At 10:45 a.m., you'll have the 6A boys finals. At 12:30, you'll have the 7A girls finals. At 2:15 p.m., you'll have the 7A boys finals. At 4 p.m., you'll have the 2A girls finals. At 5:45, you'll have the 2A boys finals. On February 21st, Wednesday, you'll have at 9 o'clock in the morning, you'll have the 5A girls finals. At 10:45 a.m., you'll have the 5A boys finals. At 12:30 p.m., you'll have the 3A girls finals. At 2:15 p.m., you'll have the 3A boys finals. 4 p.m., the 4A girls finals. And 5:45 p.m., the 4A boys finals. That is the Central regional schedule. Let's go to the South Regional now. February 14th, 9 o'clock a.m., 7A girls semifinal, Prattville versus Alma Bryant. At 10:30 a.m., 7A boys semifinal, Baker versus Johnson Abernathy Garettes, or JAG. Noon, you'll have the 7A girls semifinal, Davidson versus Enterprise. At 1:30 p.m., you'll have the 7A boys semifinal, Enterprise versus Mary G. Montgomery. At 3 p.m., you'll have the 1A girls semifinal, which is going to be Georgiana versus Elba. 4:30 p.m., you'll have the 1A boys semifinal, which is Georgiana versus Florala. At 6 p.m., you'll have the 1A girls semifinal, Marengo versus Leroy. At 7:30 p.m., you'll have the 1A boys semifinal, which is Southern Choctaw versus McIntosh. On Thursday, February 15th, you'll have at 9 o'clock in the morning, the 6A girls semifinal, Pike Road versus Theodore. 10:30 a.m. will be the 6A boys semifinal, Park Crossing versus Sidney Lanier. At noon, you'll have the 6A girls semifinal, Park Crossing versus Murphy. At 1:30 p.m., you'll have the 6A boys semifinal, Russell County versus Carver. At 3 o'clock, you'll have 2A girls semifinals, which is Abbeville versus Cottonwood. 4:30 p.m., you'll have the 2A boys semifinal, which is Abbeville versus Clark County. At 6 p.m., you'll have the 2A girls semifinal, which will be Luverne versus Washington County. At 7:30 p.m., you'll have the 2A boys semifinal, which will be Highland Home versus St. Luke's. Next, you have February 16th. You'll have at 9 o'clock in the morning, you'll have the 5A girls semifinal, Viger versus Eufaula. At 10:30 a.m., the 5A boys semifinal, which is also Viger versus Eufaula. At noon, you'll have the 5A girls semifinal, which is St. Paul's Episcopal versus Gulf Shores. At 1:30 p.m., you'll have the 5A boys semifinal, which will be Charles Henderson versus Headland. At 3 p.m., you'll have the 3A girls semifinal, Strawn versus New Brockton. 4:30 p.m., 3A boys semifinal, Hillcrest Evergreen versus Pike County. At 6 o'clock p.m., you'll have the 3A girls semifinal, which is Houston Academy versus Cottage Hill Christian. At 7:30 p.m., you'll have the 3A boys semifinal, which is Providence Christian versus Cottage Hill Christian. On February 19th, you will have the 4A girls semifinal, T.R. Miller versus UMS Wright. 10:30 a.m. will be the boys semifinal, which will be Escambia County versus UMS Wright. At noon, you'll have the 4A girls semifinal, which is Jackson versus Orange Beach. At 1:30 p.m., you'll have the 4A boys semifinal, Jackson versus Andalusia. At 3 p.m., we start moving into the finals for this regional, and you have the 1A girls finals at 3 p.m. and the 1A boys finals at 4:45. On February 20th, you'll have at 9 o'clock in the morning the 6A girls finals. At 10:45 a.m., the 6A boys finals. At 12:30 p.m., you'll have the 7A girls finals. And at 2:15 p.m., the 7A boys finals. At 4 o'clock that day, you'll have the 2A girls finals. And 5:45 p.m., the 2A boys finals. On Wednesday, February 21st, 9 o'clock in the morning will be the 5A girls finals. At 10:45 a.m. will be the 5A boys finals. At 12:30 p.m. will be the 3A girls finals. At 2:15 p.m. will be the 3A boys finals. At 4 p.m. will be the 4A girls finals. And 5:45 will be the 4A boys finals. That gets all of the South Regional. Now we will finish with the Northwest Regionals, which will be held at Wallace State Community College in Hanceville. On February 14th, we start off at 9 o'clock in the morning with the 7A girls semifinal, Bob Jones versus Vestavia Hills. 10:30 a.m., 7A boys semifinal, James Clemens versus Thompson. Noon will be the 7A girls semifinal, Hoover versus James Clemens. 1:30 p.m., the 7A boys semifinal will be Hoover versus Austin. 3 p.m. will be the 1A girls semifinal, which will be Meek versus Belgreen. 4:30 p.m. will be the 1A boys semifinal, Shoals Christian versus Lynn. At 6 p.m. it'll be the 1A girls semifinal, which is Shoals Christian versus Marion County. And at 7:30 p.m. will be the 1A boys semifinal, Covenant Christian versus Marion County. Next is February 15th. 9 o'clock in the morning, 6A girls semifinal, Hartselle versus Muscle Shoals. 10:30 a.m., 6A boys semifinal, Coleman versus Muscle Shoals. At noon will be the 6A girls semifinal, Hazel Green versus Clay Chalkville. 1:30 p.m. will be the 6A boys semifinal, Buckhorn versus Clay Chalkville. 3 p.m. will be 2A girls semifinal, Decatur Heritage versus Whitesburg Christian. 4:30 p.m., 2A boys semifinal, Decatur Heritage versus Tanner. 6 o'clock p.m. will be the 2A girls semifinal, Mars Hill Bible versus Sologent. And at 7:30 p.m. will be the 2A boys semifinal, Mars Hill Bible versus Red Bay. On February 16th, you have the 5A girls semifinal, Jasper versus West Point. At 10:30 a.m., the 5A boys semifinal, which will be Ramsey versus Russellville. At noon will be the 5A girls semifinal, Ramsey versus Pleasant Grove. At 1:30 p.m. will be the 5A boys semifinal, which will be Madison Academy versus Fairfield. At 3 p.m., you'll have the 3A girls semifinal, which will be Clements versus Childersburg. 4:30 p.m. will be the 3A boys semifinal, Winfield versus Danville. At 6 p.m. will be the 3A girls semifinal, Lauderdale County versus Midfield. At 7:30 p.m., 3A boys semifinal, Carbon Hill versus Midfield. On February 19th, 9 o'clock in the morning, 4A girls semifinal will be Good Hope versus Deschler. At 10:30 a.m. will be 4A boys semifinal, which will be Good Hope versus Deschler. At noon will be the 4A girls semifinal, Priceville versus Hamilton. At 1:30 will be the 4A boys semifinal, West Morgan versus Haleyville. At that point, we start moving into the finals for the regionals. At 3 p.m. on February 19th will be the 1A girls finals, followed by at 4:45 with the 1A boys finals. On February 20th at 9 o'clock in the morning, you have the 6A girls finals. At 10:45, you will have the 6A boys finals. At 12:30 p.m., you'll have the 7A girls finals. At 2:15 p.m., you'll have the 7A boys finals. At 4 o'clock p.m. will be the 2A girls finals. At 5:45 p.m. will be the 2A boys finals. And finally, Wednesday, February 21st, will be the finals for 9 o'clock a.m. for 5A girls. At 10:45 will be the finals for 5A boys. At 12:30, 3A girls finals. 2:15 p.m., 3A boys finals. 4 p.m. will be the 4A girls finals. 5:45 p.m. will be the 4A boys finals. That should be all of the regional schedule for the high school basketball, in which is coming this next week. After the regionals are over with, the winners of those regionals for each of the classifications and for the boys and the girls will go to the state tournament, and that state tournament will be held in Birmingham February 26th through March 2nd. Anyway, I know this video was a little bit long, but I needed to go over the regional schedule for all 4 of the regionals that's coming up this week. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this regionals high school basketball schedule for the Alabama High School Athletic Association for the boys and the girls. With that, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button, please hit the notification bell so you can be made aware of when I'm going over these special sports schedules, when I have live broadcasts, when I do sports action videos, or any other sports-related information that needs to get out there. Anyway, I hope y'all have a great day.